welcome our very dynamic president of Women's Business Council, who also is the chairwoman and president of Airspeed Group of Companies. Let us give a warm welcome to our president, Rosemary Rafael.
Thank you. Parang ang dami kong pala this morning. Thank you so much and welcome. Welcome to the first Women's Business Council Philippines event on climate change and sustainability. I first would like to thank our sponsor companies, SMIC, of course. Let's give them a big round. AstraZeneca, Aboitiz, Fairpads, and of course, Airspeed. Grabe sila, nagdala pa ng sariling banner. But that's kudos to you because you are thinking always of branding and marketing. Thank you, Tessa and team. But I believe that this is only the beginning of many things that can come because sustainability, climate change is something that in the past, I really can't embrace because climate change, anong ibig sabihin nun? Eh di kung bumagyo, anong gagawin ko? Or kung bumaha, anong gagawin ko? Oh, can you understand Tagalog? Yes, you can. Buti na lang. Okay. So, but then again, I've been really thinking, studying, learning, and I'd really like to thank Attorney Lorna Kapunan. Let's give her a big hand for spearheading this event. Because climate change and sustainability are something that we really cannot get away with. This is something that we need moving forward, right, Attorney Dulce? And really embracing it, studying it, and being part of it, and not just thinking about it, but really putting it into action. Putting it into action is something maybe difficult because, wow, it can be overwhelming. But then again, I believe that together, especially the core companies who sponsored, I believe that you are intentional in terms of sustainability and climate change, and that's the reason why you helped us with this. So I encourage you to be the core group of sustainability initiatives that we can have. Like we started in our company, Eileen, Clinic de Estero, right? In the area where we are. Maybe each of us as individuals, as companies, can do something in the communities where we are at. Because this is something that will help us future-proof our businesses. And in terms of really the impact of the climate change or sustainability, it has an impact on the environment, the individuals, the communities, and the individuals. So I'd like to thank you once again. I really believe that women and men, I include you now, women and men doing things together, inspiring each other and creating opportunities for women and men, things can happen and we can make a difference. Good afternoon to all of you.
Thank you for that wonderful opening remarks, President Rosemary Rafael. Indeed, we all need to work hand in hand, hold each other's hand, and raise each other's hand for us to really uphold the future of the next generations through sustainability and climate action needs to be done now. And this event would not have been possible without our moderator for today and our trustee, none other than Attorney Lorna Pataho Kapunan.
Thank you, Alpha. Thank you, Rose, and President, Board of Trustees, and all of your guests. this is the first time that I wore shoes. And so this is a momentous occasion for me. And I hope that if it opens, that you will not notice. Kasi di ba, pag hindi natin ginagamit sa palas ng muka. But my co-trustees in Women's Biz and know that I'm always, if I say rubber shoes, you will know that I'm old. My kids call it kicks. So I'm always in kicks, but today is an exception. And of course, I'm also a girl because we're discussing climate change.
Yeah.
But what is climate change? Let me just put in context why climate change is a woman's issue. The same way that the face of poverty is a woman's face. The face of climate change really is a woman's face. And hence, our title of our webinar is Climate Action for Women by Women. So climate change is a major global crisis. It has a negative impact on people and the environment around the world. All of us and next generations will be affected. However, not all of us will be affected in the same way. The consequences of climate change are severe, especially for the poor and vulnerable groups in developing countries such as ours. From national disasters to food security to health to access to clean water and migration, in several parts of the world, our changing climate already has severe implications for us, for women and girls especially. As families strive to cope with these changes, they may resort to negative coping mechanisms. And of course, our commissioners and our chair from the Philippine Commission on Women know this. That negative coping mechanisms like forcing girls to leave school or to marry early. Risk for gender-based violence also increases. Of course, it helps in my attorney's fees and they come to me. Anyway. So understanding climate change as a human rights issue is central to the fight against climate change, but also to create a sustainable, gender-equal future. WomenbizPH, together with other women's organizations and all of you here who are advocates for climate change, we all, I'm sure, envision a world in which women's rights are recognized as human rights and every woman is able to achieve her full potential. Now, in such a world, women have access to all resources and are represented in decision-making positions on an equal basis with you men. In such a world, no woman lives in fear of violence. Climate change threatens human rights, such as the right to life, the right to food, water, health, education, livelihood, and safety. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 13, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, Goal 13, which is climate action, emphasizes the urgent need for action to combat climate change and its impacts. While WomenbizPH and other co-women advocates on climate change, while we are probably not an environmental or disaster response organization, incidentally, I also am governor of the Philippine Red Cross, and the effects of climate change on a daily basis are horrendous. Though we are not the Red Cross or a disaster response organization, we all know that climate change disproportionately affects women and girls, and action is needed from a gender equality perspective. WomenbizPH as an organization pledged to empower women and girls at the global and local levels and to promote justice and universal respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. Therefore, today, let this be the first day of the rest of our lives. For today, we are making a call for action in favor of a fair and human rights-based approach to solve the crisis of climate change in the post-pandemic world and achieve a greener, a cleaner, and equal society. As stated by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on several occasions and affirmed in the most recent UN Sustainable Development Goal report, he says, if the world does not act now and forcefully, the catastrophic effects of climate change will be far greater than the current pandemic. I repeat, the catastrophic effects of climate change is going to be more catastrophic than this pandemic. So Women Biz and all of you friends here, male and female, and those in between, adds its voice to affirm, hopefully. All of you will add your voice to affirm starting today that climate change does require swift and decisive action. And the time for action is now. Magbuhay tayong lahat. And I think that was the second speech because Evelyn Singson made the first speech when she prayed for us. But let me introduce to you our primary guest speaker. As you know, she could not join us because she probably studies in the United Nations on that forum on climate change. I think the President BBM has come back, but you will now see a message which she has lovingly sent to us. Let me introduce our inspirational message from the Honorable Maria Antonia Yulo Loizaga, Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. She, as you all know, is the current Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources of the Philippines. She was the President of the National Resilience Council, a science and technology-based public-private partnership aimed at the implementation of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, the Sustainable Goals, and the Paris Climate Change. Secretary, we call her Secretary Tony, was a member of the United Nations International Office for Disaster Risk Management and the Asia Pacific Science Technology Advisory Group, and was also a director of the UNDRR's Alliance for Disaster Resilient Societies, or ARISE, which is the Philippine initiative where NRC leads the disaster risk strategies work team. Secretary Tony, of course, served, as you may know, on the Science Advisory Board of the Integrated Research on Disaster Risk International Center for Excellence in Taipei, and was a governing board member of the Future Earth Global Secretariat Hub, likewise in Taipei. A trustee of the Zwilich Family Foundation, the Manila Observatory, the Ateneo de Naga University, and the Forest Foundation Philippines are just among the foundations that she has served prior to her really well-deserved appointment in the DENR. During this period, she was appointed to the Department of Science and Technology's Committee also on Space Technology Applications and to the UNESCO National Commission's Committee on Science and Okay, in 2013. Apart from her many, many awards, she was recognized by the Armed Forces of Philippines for her contributions to the Philippine military's emergency disaster response operations during Super Typhoon Haiyan. Are we ready now for a message? So, Tony Loizaga holds a Master of Arts degree in Government from Georgetown University and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science from the Ateneo de Manila University. Please welcome to join us virtually Secretary Tony Yulo Loizaga, a good friend of Women Biz.
To the Women's Business Council Philippines and honored guests, a pleasant day to you all. Allow me first to thank you for inviting me to join this event. Special thanks to Attorney Lorna Kapunan and Ms. Rosemary Rafael for reaching out and making us a part of this very important occasion. Let me begin by saying that we all have a stewardship role in terms of protecting our environment and natural resources, and this role is not solely for the DNR to actually play out. I enjoin everyone to become part of a mission that represents the following: an ethical stewardship, serving our country with excellence, and upholding shared environmental values to achieve inclusive, disaster resilient, and sustainable development. To do this, may I invite each of you to cross imaginary silos, harness our collective
They were just having
expertise, and
some
make sure
technical
that we
difficulties,
utilize our
but
capacities
should
and
be worked out
capabilities to
because the
support
tech
each
is
other.
outsourced.
Please allow me to share a
So
few
we're just
insights
working this out.
that I
But are
hope
you
can be
enjoying your
part
lunch?
of our shared mission.
Okay, good.
The DNR has a crucial role in the accounting of protection and enhancement of the natural resources of our country. This will involve the use of science and technology, as well as the use of financial management and economics. And that means we will have to work across the different departments to achieve that foundation. We cannot do this alone, however, and we'll need your help in ensuring accuracy, transparency, accountability, and efficiency in establishing the baselines of our natural capital in the form of assets and ecosystem services. We would like to build resilient communities along with our other government agencies and yourselves through risk sensitive and balanced development of resources along what we call the natural, rural, and urban transect. This means that our urban and regional planning must consider ecosystems that cut across ridge, river, and reef, and not just political boundaries. This is the basis for an environmentally sound development plan. Third point here is to work with our cities. They are the engines of growth, but they depend largely on the ecosystems that support them. Communities need water, energy, and food, and the social protection that will enable them to access and afford these. Human vulnerability from marginalization due to gender, ethnicity, age, income, disability are heightened in dense and highly urbanized environments. Please help the DNR contribute to inclusion by being the voices of the vulnerable. We also need to combat the climate emergency through practical climate change adaptation and mitigation measures and the use of science to approach national and local scale impacts of climate change. We also live in a multi-hazard environment, not just from natural hazards, but biological, industrial, as well as combined natural technological ones as well. The compounding of these hazards has led to the development of systemic risks and threats to our entire environment, economic, and social system. Work with us, please, to refine our processes by identifying the environmental risks to the resilience of your operations and those of the MSMEs in your supply and value chains. The first imperative now is for the private sector to understand the complexity of risk. specifically in the context of compound hazards, whether they be climate-related, non-climatic, or a combination of both. These hazards can result in cascading risk, especially in fragile systems. We have already seen this in the case of natural technological disasters, like we recently experienced in Typhoon Odette, where the typhoon caused power, water, and communications failures. That in turn led to waterborne disease, loss of revenues and livelihoods, and the damage to our natural capital in forests and coastal areas. There are opportunities for investment in transformational adaptation by looking into the intersectionality of vulnerability that enhances inequalities already present and decreasing susceptibility to harm by investing in a combination of nature-based and gray solutions together. For women leaders in business, our main challenge here is to go beyond traditional roles as donors in relief and response when disasters occur and investing ahead in prevention. Past and future disruptions to business are opportunities for us to invest in resilience of natural, human, and engineered systems, which in turn could be vital to surviving and thriving amidst uncertainty. This means we need to integrate resilience into your core business value cycles so that you can prevent disasters and minimize the impact of unavoidable hazards, not only to your operations, but to the ecosystems and communities that support them as well. The costs in terms of lives and livelihoods from major disasters should teach us all these valuable lessons. We need to encourage the private sector to support voluntary and mandatory disclosure policies today. A regime has been internationalized that is embodied under the work of the Task Force on Climate-Related and Nature-Related Financial Disclosures. Resilience, mitigation, adaptation, and disaster risk reduction need now to be reflected in our reporting systems. The second imperative is we must recognize that technological innovation is not enough. There needs to be investments in reframing resilience to include not just the protection of business assets, but the conservation and enhancement of the social and ecological systems wherein our businesses operate. This will include investments to support our MSMEs by making financing, knowledge development, and technical services available to them. Investments of the private sector should also be made in education, research, and innovation that support transdisciplinary and nexus approaches to risk governance. Lastly, the private sector, and here I enjoin all the women business leaders, need to be actively involved in building multi-stakeholder partnerships for evidence-informed, inclusive, and adaptive leadership inside and outside government. There have been efforts on that front, and the Philippines is increasingly becoming a model to our neighbor countries in the region for our whole-of-society approach in strengthening capacity on disaster risk reduction, environmental protection, and addressing climate change. I was recently in Brisbane as the head of the Philippine delegation to the 2022 Asia-Pacific Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction, and our country was recognized by the head of the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction as a successful model for public-private partnership for inclusive and participatory disaster risk governance. I'm also pleased to report in closing that there was a clear gender imbalance in our favor, and this has been my experience working in disaster risk reduction for almost 2 decades. Women are very well represented and are at the front line of reducing risk to communities and businesses globally. On that note, please allow me to thank you again, and I hope for your support as the DNR begins a new course in our ethical, inclusive, and responsive environmental leadership. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, DENR Secretary Maria Antonia Tony Yulo Leizaga. So are you ready to face the challenge of our DENR Secretary? We have no choice. We have no choice because we only have one Earth. We only have one Earth, really. And when you think about it, I picked very simple. It's actually a cliche, but you know, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And really, we all need to invest. Invest not just our minds, but invest our minds and our spirits and our actions to help our country and the world to have sustainable and resilient communities, not just for us, but for the children more than anything. And because we are women, we are nurturing and we really care for the next generations. So I'd like to call on our president to cite the certificate of appreciation.
Certificate of appreciation is presented to Secretary Maria Antonia Yulo Loizaga, Secretary, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, for sharing valuable insights during the climate action for her, by her, for women, by women on-site seminar held at Dusitani, Manila, given this 27th day of September by Rosemary Rafael, President, Women Biz, and Mylena Biba, Chairperson, Women Biz. Thank you.
And to introduce our first speaker, is it the first speaker? Live. The first one was a keynote, and now is the first speaker is none other than our Board of Trustees, Jeanette Hamlin of Team Asia.
I hope you're enjoying your lunch. Okay, for our first speaker, we're very, very honored to have Ms. Catherine Custodio. She is the Executive Director of WWF Philippines. And so I had to check, what is WWF Philippines, just to be sure. So that represents the Worldwide Fund for Nature, Inc. And it's an international, non-governmental organization.
Climate crisis is not gender neutral. Studies from the UNFPA, the UN Women, the Women's Environment Network are all saying that the climate crisis is not gender neutral. More women than men live in extreme poverty. 80% of internally displaced are women. I was surprised at such a high level, 80%. And our gendered roles, caregiving, collecting water, the women's roles in farming and fishing make women more susceptible. Next slide. Please click until the text appears. Thank you. Climate change deepens already existing inequalities. Therefore, our response needs to be gender responsive. So my proposal is that aside from talking about mitigation, which is reducing the amount of greenhouse gases that we put out, or sequestering them through offset, planting trees, etc., and adaptation, which is about increasing our ability to adapt to the disruptions of climate change, let us add inclusion as a cross-cutting way of working in these two pillars of mitigation and adaptation. Next slide. So the opportunity for businesses to respond to the climate crisis, in summary, is to commit, act, and advocate for a more nature-positive, resilient, and inclusive economy. And I will share just 3 broad ideas for how you might join in WWF's climate response. Next slide. First and most important, Diba? Walk the talk. Incorporate sustainability in your business practices. Our answer to this is a program called Corporates for a Better Planet Initiative, which essentially is sustainability consulting, but done in the Philippine context and can be applied wherever you are in your sustainability journey. I'm pleased to see SM here and Colleen, who we work with on this program, and on other ways to initiate collective climate action. And we will be sure to invite you in joining that platform, which you should hear about pretty soon. Second idea, next page, please, next slide. Can we transform the usual CSR to mean corporate sustainability response? Businesses are about creating value. Is that value if your businesses cause our environment to collapse, for climate impacts to worsen for all of us, and cause more suffering for the vulnerable? So let us add to what CSR means. Next slide. I would like to show an example of a women's business called Galipi. This is one of our partners in Donsol, where we've worked for a very long time to help create their whale shark ecotourism program, and where we remain committed. It's a wonderful example of women's creativity and entrepreneurship that not only provides livelihood, but also helps solve the community's plastic pollution problem. There are many more of these kinds of groups that I hope we can help nurture. Slide, please. And coming to my last broad suggestion for this group, my last point of supporting each other. So this peer network is so valuable for the energy and platform that it creates. Bring a shared women's advocacy to each one's sphere of influence, wherever industry, whichever sector you work in. And I speak from my experience being in WWF, as Monette told you, since 2008, when I was 12 years old, where I was, when there was only one female head of office in the 24 countries that WWF is present in the region. Today, there are 9 of us, women heads of office, and that number will grow. And I draw immense strength from that group of sisters, and I know that this group, in a similar way, feeds the soul of all its members. I had the privilege to meet Sec Tony the other week, and I can assure you that what we have is a very rare opportunity to make a difference with an environment secretary of her caliber and heart. So let us also support her in her leadership of the department. Today, she sits in the Commission on Appointments hearing, so I eagerly await the results. Next slide. If what's happening to our environment is a movie, we already know that the ending we face is a grim one. So just think of all the impacts that we've felt from climate change. All our efforts are really about changing that ending. And we believe it's possible to do that. So I really hope that through this opening that you gave me today, that we can have a shared journey towards changing that end. Thank you very much. And again, good day. Love you, Attorney Lorna. Wow, thank you so much.
Catherine Custodio for sharing her knowledge as a guest speaker during the Climate Action event, Climate Action for Women by Women, organized by the Women's Business Council of Philippines, held on the 27th of September of the year 2022 at Lusitani, Manila by Eileen Aviva, Chairperson, and Rosemary Rafael, President. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Trin.
Ito may video. Matarin yan kanina.
Can we give another round of applause to Jane? Thank you so much. So eye-opening, meaning. And when you think of climate change response, do you remember the suggestion of WWF? I'll just think, oh my, MAI. So to introduce our next speaker, I'd like to call on stage one of our board of trustees, Rosemary Oh.
Thank you, Alpha, and thank you, Dean, for that very thought-provoking presentation. Now, let's go on to the next speaker. I'm privileged to introduce Ms. Colleen Davila Palaganas, has devoted her life's work in the advancement of sustainability and sustainable development. Currently, she serves as the group head of the SM Sustainability Office. Her team ensures that advancement of SM sustainability agenda and campaigns to create shared value for all of SM stakeholders wherever SM operates. As a group, SM is committed to greener and more inclusive social growth as it scales practical nature-based solution through the SM Green Movement and promotes social equity through the SM Social Good Movement. Prior to SM, Colleen has worked in Europe, Central Asia, Asia and the Pacific with Habitat for Humanity International. Actually, my association with Colleen was with Habitat when Wilcon donated toilets, no? So advancing social equity for all and making decent housing a global agenda. She also drove St. Luke's Medical Center's capital campaign for its global city hospital, as well as served as consultant for multiple nonprofits such as MoveEd, ICM, and many more. She served as a board member for Child Hope Philippines and Global Stakeholder Council for GRI. She was recognized as one of Asia's sustainability superwomen by CSR Works in 2019. She completed her master's in international cooperation for sustainable development at the University of Santiago de Compostela as a full scholar of the Agencia Española de Cooperación Internacional al Desarrollo, or AECID. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to Ms. Colleen Davila Palaganas.
Sorry, I don't read when I talk. That's my problem. But before I speak, we have a message from our team leader. His name is Tim Daniels, and he has communications, oversees sustainability and investor relations, and he recorded a message for us. So I don't know if we could play it.
SM Investments is one of the largest Philippine conglomerates. We've been around for over 60 years. We have 3 core businesses, mainly retailing, banking, and properties. Over the past 60 plus years, sustainability is something which SM has had as a culture It's something which we as a group has been practicing from the very beginning. We take into account the entire impact on the environment, including, let's say, providing sustainable energy, renewable solar powers, water treatment facilities, and waste recycling. We also provide, like, for example, for our malls, we make the malls more like a community center, which also then becomes like an area for relief effort if ever there's any sort of calamity that occurs. We also provide support in terms of education and training and healthcare, because at the end of the day, it's the sustainability of the community that continues to provide the growth for our businesses. Biodiversity is very important in everything that we do as a country and as individuals. For example, in our Hamilo Coast development, we work very closely with the WWF in terms of reforestation and also culturing more mangroves in the area.
There is this climate change that's looming over our Mother Earth. If we can contribute no matter how little, and if I can get everybody to be aware of it, I think we will make an impact. It's never too late.
Sustainability is very important because for a business to be able to continue to grow and last for many, many years, it's very important that the business support the community in a sustainable way. Because in the end, it's also the community and the environment that sustains the high growth of our businesses.
Hello, and thanks for the opportunity to make a few comments today. I am very pleased to support WomenbizPH, and particularly the urgent topic of climate action. The role of women entrepreneurs in the hundreds of thousands of MSMEs that are the backbone of the Philippine economy is undeniable. And climate change is one of, if not the, biggest long-term issues that the Philippines faces. We are one of the smallest contributors to global greenhouse gases, but we are one of the most affected countries. Women in business have an important role in climate change initiatives and sustainability. From taking care of the family to being productive workforce members and leaders, women play a crucial role in promoting sustainable and resilient communities. As a corporate entity, we at SM are cognizant of our impact on communities, and we recognize our role in promoting inclusivity in the workplace. We work hard at being an equal opportunity provider. 63% of our workforce are women, and women comprise over 58% in senior leadership roles, breaking down barriers of gender biases and empowering our colleagues to shine in their own element. We maintain a mix of people from diverse backgrounds, generations, and skill sets to mirror the diverse customers and communities that we serve. Last year, SM Prime joined the ranks of over 3,000 other business leaders by signing the Women's Empowerment Principles, the WEPs, of the United Nations. This was as a part of International Women's Day. Established by the UN Global Compact and UN Women, the WEPs aim to guide businesses in promoting the gender equality dimensions of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. As a signatory to these WEPs, SM Prime will help ensure that the UN continues to grow and serve the progress of gender equality and women's empowerment at a global scale. Across the SM Group, many of our tenants and our suppliers are also women entrepreneurs. So we created a startup program to assist them, and we strongly support women-led small enterprises. This reflects the importance of both MSMEs and women as effective business builders in the Philippines. Reflecting this, our women leaders throughout our organization are also leading in discussions. Our Vice Chairperson, Teresita C. Coson, has pioneered discussions on sustainability, especially in our first initiative with the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, to hold an industry-wide sustainability summit and continue to represent our goals and ideals in various local and international forums. Our group sustainability office is led by Colleen Palaganas, who spearheads our climate change and sustainability discussions and the initiatives across the whole group. As you know, Rosemary Raphael of Airspeed and your very own president of WomenbizPH is a strong female advocate who also helps to steer these discussions. What then are we doing in SM? What are some of our key programs, especially about climate? Well, the SM Group is addressing the climate concerns by coming out with our own group climate position that serves as the anchor for all our future and existing climate action programs. This statement puts equal emphasis on mitigation, i.e. the reduction of our carbon footprint, and on adaptation to the severe effects of climate change. We will lower our emissions, we will enhance our infrastructure that is affected by worsening weather, and we will reduce our vulnerability while strengthening our business community and that of the communities we serve. We have stepped up our climate action program, and together with SM Prime and NEO, a part of SM's portfolio investments, we signed up as supporters of the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, TCFD, in 2021, joining more than 3,000 supporters worldwide, making clear our unequivocal support for private sector action, for transparency in our own programs, and for partnership towards the common needs and goals. NEO was also cited as the first company in the world to be certified as EDGE Zero Carbon for all of their buildings. This is under the International Finance Corporation program, and they are advancing Net Zero Philippines program of the Philippines Green Building Council. NEO is the first office portfolio in Southeast Asia to achieve the WELL Health Safety Seal. At SM, we're also investing in renewable energy, such as geothermal steam energy. We just acquired Philippine Geothermal Production Company this year, and that company operates two of the largest steam fields in the country, producing clean energy. And PGPC will continue to explore the rights to several more such locations around the Philippines. Apart from this direct investment, SM Prime also made one of the boldest announcements related to energy use in the country. They committed that 50% of their energy will be provided by renewable energy sources by the end of this year, 2022. Looking at our bank, BDO is a leader in funding renewable energy. They have 54 clean energy projects of various types that are being supported by their funding all across the country. And BDO also recently announced that they will continue the practice they have of not lending to coal-fired power plants. This practice has been in place since 2019. BDO is committing to reduce its coal exposure by 50%, while also ensuring that its coal exposure does not go above 2% of its total loan portfolio, and they will achieve these goals by 2033. In our retail business, we aim to offer customers sustainable choices. Our SM Green Finds program provides options for Filipino consumers to meet their evolving preferences for eco-friendly choices and climate-friendly choices, which can be found at the SM store. This Green Finds line of products showcases local suppliers as well, and artisans, with their resources and resourcefully made products. They're supporting communities and MSMEs in the country while reducing impact on the environment. We are keen to support climate advocacies. Overall, at SM, we take the issue of climate change, how we can address it, and how we can support our stakeholders to do so very seriously. So we fully support women entrepreneurs and leaders in that journey. And indeed, we support advocacies such as WomenbizPH. Thank you very much. I hope you have much success in your conference today.
Thank you. He was supposed to come, but I think he has some investors meeting, so I'll go ahead and present. I'm so grateful to Trin because she gave us a whole a landscape of what we can look into and what to expect about climate change. And I'm more of a storyteller than I am a presenter, so I thank you. How do I go to the presentation? So anyway, while we're waiting for it. So I guess the question really we ask after what Trin has placed is, so of course, this is the presentation, you can go to the next slide, is the question is, what do we do? She's already said, Trin already said that the women, are in the forefront of the climate change. And there are many issues about women that we do not see. It's like under the radar because it is still so embedded in our society, in the way we work, the way we live, that it kind of, we don't see it. It's just there. It's very much accepted. So as women, where are we in this space of sustainability and climate change? I'm used to having that. So the question we have is what we're saying, right? Are we vulnerable or are we victorious? Because normally that's a double-edged sword. So we can make a choice. So next slide. So this is an article by the UN, another click, Women in the Shadow of Climate Change. And Trin kind of talked about this, that 1.3 billion people living in poverty and a lot of women, 40% are in the poorest households. Now, I guess it's easier, I came from Habitat, easier to marginalize the poverty, people in poor, and we imagine that because it is so real to them getting water and all this, that people or women in developed countries or people that are not in the poverty line is not affected by this, because it's not so real in the daily life. Like I go, and I was in Kenya, the women would like carry water and put it on top. But the thing is, so because we have, I said it's a double-edged sword, because if I am the one carrying the water every day, and I am the one looking after the health of my children, and I am the one looking at all this, yes, I may be vulnerable, but I also hold the power. Why? Because I know it by heart. I know the intricacies of things that people only know theoretically. I know it every single day of my life. I know exactly how my children feel. I know exactly how my husband will respond. I know exactly how they will do it. So we have the power. That's power. That's power. When you know it inside out, that's power. So the question, next slide, is this. We have to click this. So why do we hold the power in our hands? And this is it. Because we women hold securing water and food for our children. Now, I know, of course, men work and, of course, women work. But why is women primarily here? Because of nursing mothers. On the onset of the child, remember, when the woman is pregnant, immediately she's feeding the child. So immediately she understands when there is poverty, there is no food. She understands immediately when it's raining and she's gonna have trouble. She knows that it's instinct. The other one is we're the first to respond when our children are facing disaster, because my instinct, in fact, before they face it, we have that inkling that they're gonna get in trouble, right? The other one is we women are the caretakers of the health and the lives of our family. We take care of our husband, our children, we take care of the lola, the lolo, our elderly, the community. It's our nature. We're nurturers by nature. So that is the woman, the role of the woman. And the other one, the women have a wealth of practical knowledge. Like what I said, because regardless of our status, whether we're very educated or we're not so educated, wherever we are, practical knowledge is one of the hardest to attain because it takes experience. I can read the book and memorize it, but no do not know how to respond and apply it when situations come. But practical knowledge is impeccable. It is priceless because it takes years of experience for you to be able to have the instinct. You know, intuition is one of the gifts of women that I feel is needed for climate change and sustainability, because intuition is not only your head knowledge of a logical assessment of what will happen. It comes from the gut, an experience. And men, I know you're brilliant, but women are so intuitive. And this is a very, very unique gift, you know, and we're not gonna throw this away. We're gonna own it. So here's a woman also, the question. Women in SM, like what Tim said, 58%, just click, sir, of our senior leadership are women. Now, I'm going to recognize, first of all, of course, our big boss, Mrs. Coson, is a woman, a brilliant, intuitive woman. And in our group, we have a lot of women who are leaders. We have here Attorney Feder from PGPC, women. We have Nova, who is our climate expert, a woman again. We have Viola from To Go, woman. We have Mercy, she's there, To Go Sustainability, women. Of course, we have so many women. And the whole Airspeed, we have Tessa, we have, and the sustainability of Airspeed, again, is a woman. So SM supports women. Now, if you go to the next slide, I want to show you the different leadership spaces, no, in SM where we heavily promoted. Of course, I want to, you know her, but she'll speak one day. She's busy lang today. Miss Lizanne Uichaco is recently appointed as Group Diversity Officer for SM Group. Now, this appointment is actually almost just formalizing what Lizanne has been advocating for so many years in SM. Diversity, women in leadership. She sits in the board, she sits in senior leadership. She's also active in promoting the seniors in our Sunshine Place. So we also promote entrepreneurship. And of course, women are leaders in community and their family. So if you look at it, next slide. Oh, where's the first slide? There. So the question we have is, what is our space in sustainability and climate change? We know sustainability is social, socio-economic, and also environment, of which climate was covered heavily in detail by Trin. Now, but I'll cover the whole because I thought sustainability as a whole. So, yes, okay. So, first of all, can we go back to the first one before this? Yes. In sustainability, you know, the social side is very important so we can face the environment properly. And the number one thing that's so important we hold in our hands is education. Because if, you know, even when I was in Africa, if they say, if you educate, they say this way, if you educate a man, you educated one man. You educate a woman, you educated her whole children, her cousins, her familia, her barangay, and all that. Why? Because the woman, and this is funny, I mean, this is not my statistics, it's the statistics in Africa. They said for every additional, what do you call this, ano to yung disposable income of a man, that there is a bigger tendency to go out drinking, go out. And then, but for every disposable income of a woman, papaaralin niya yung anak ng anak, papaaralin, bibigyan niya pang negosyo to. It's always nurturing, nurturing, nurturing. So why is this important? Because it is the most who are not so educated in society, that was not able to access this, are the ones becoming more vulnerable. They are unable to access